Friday.
Oh, it's Friday. It's
It's
Friday.
Friday.
Gotta get
Everyone.
down on
I was gonna say the
Friday.
same thing.
Everybody's looking forward
Oh.
to the. Anyway, sorry, I'll stop singing. Très vite.
Bonjour.
And welcome to the Morning Brew with Vienna Whyte.
Sips tea.
You couldn't see that, but we both did it at the same time. That was beautiful.
Welcome, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic Friday.
Oh, it's Friday. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
Gotta
Everyone.
get down on
I was gonna say
Friday.
the same thing.
Everybody's looking
Oh.
forward to the. Anyway, sorry, I'll stop singing.
That's so crazy. My brain went to the exact same song.
I mean, who can't go to that song? I mean,
I know.
Rebecca Black made that
An
song for
icon.
us. She walked so that we could fly.
Yeah, she's funny. She came out with a new song a couple years ago where she actually sounded good, and everyone's like, "Wait, what? You actually can?"
She's
sing?"
really good. She's actually super, super good. It was just well, I mean, you of all people would understand.
I was just gonna say.
But, well, it's just it was one of those things that she made when she was younger, and it was just cringy and whatever. I mean, I can't say I wasn't one of those people who made some cringy stuff. There may or may not be a private video that no one can see, thank God, but of me and my friends from high school. Or I guess I've known them for my entire life, but we all were super obsessed with Rocky Horror Picture Show in high school. And so at my friend's place, we set up a camera, but a little digital camera because we didn't have smartphones.
Right.
So we set up a little digital camera, and we put on makeup, and we danced to the time warp, and we did 7 takes until we got it right. And it's on Facebook, and it's so embarrassing.
Oh, I love that. That music is so much fun.
It really is. Musical. It really is. It's such a good musical.
In grade 12, we had a really cool program. It was basically a theater program, and you'd pay a certain amount. It actually wasn't that crazy, the price you paid, but I don't remember the price nowadays. And you got to see 6 shows from the Citadel throughout the year, or 6 or 8 or something like that.
Theater appreciation class.
Yeah. I think that's what it was called. Yeah. So we got to see Rocky Horror and a lot of really good. A lot of them were not super famous ones necessarily, but they were still really cool to just see the actors and actresses. And at the time I thought, I was maybe I want to be an actress, but no, cannot do.
You can't act?
I think I could act. My mom always says, "Oh, you're such a drama queen. You could totally be a blah blah blah." But I'm I can't dance. First of all, I can sing, and most of the time I'm very introverted. And actors and actresses are just very blah. They don't care, and I can't be that way all the time, for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah,
I think you could be an actress.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did it a little bit in high school. I was on the improv team. The only reason I was on the improv team was because I followed a boy there who I liked, and then he quit. He quit after. I know, that's such a surprise, Marissa.
I was waiting for that twist end.
Big surprise there.
Well, hey,
not surprising at all. Yeah, I ended up going into improv, and then after that I started doing Fridays during lunch hour. We did improv on Fridays.
Nice.
And then I did one act plays, and I did the musical, and when I was in grade 12, and the play the year before that. And then I do some acting with dance. It's a different kind of acting, because you can't talk, because it's all dance. You have to show your emotions with your character. So it's I work a lot on my faces. So but I feel I only know how to play one character. That's the thing, is I know how to play the dumb blonde one, oh my gosh, that's all I know how to do. Yeah. So if you watched, I guess you haven't watched it, I'll make you watch it.
No, I haven't
seen my dance show from February, when we did Ignite a Harmony of Stories. It's on YouTube. You guys should go check it out.
It is.
Not the whole show, but
okay.
But there's little clips here and there if you want to see me dance around and be dumb. It's really fun.
Dance around and be dumb. I love it.
It's so much fun.
I
love acting.
Acting is really fun. I mean, it's such a fun thing when you're in high school, because you like, I mean, you kind of take it seriously, but you kind of don't, right? So a lot of it is just like super fun. I can't imagine like directing a bunch of teenagers for a high school play. Like,
You really have to get them on your side. Otherwise,
yeah,
no, you're not going to get anything done.
I had one every year actually. We had a different drama teacher because for some reason we could never keep them. I don't know why.
Like the Defense Against the Dark Arts in Harry
Totally.
Potter.
Yes. Maybe there
That
is something
position is
wrong with that.
cursed.
But first year we had a really good director. She'd been there for a few years, and I think she just went to a different school or maybe retired. But then the second year when we did Grease, the play, this woman was just like, she would cry and she would be like, I had a fight with my husband. And we're all like,
Ooh.
okay, but we're like 17. What do you want me to tell you? Like, I can't. And then she would yell, and like, this is when she got really angry. Like, she wasn't like this all the time, but when she got frustrated, she would like yell and scream. And I think she swore at a student, pretty sure.
Mm.
So that next year she was gone, and we were all like, thank the Lord. But she really wanted to do Beauty and the Beast for our last year. And I was like, oh, this is my time to shine. And then we got a new drama teacher, which actually my sister knew her. Like, they went to school together. But that didn't help me get a better role. So, but she ended up doing Seussical the Musical.
Mm.
So my ass was a Whoville mom. That was my role, was a Whoville mom. Like, you know the little Who people? I was a Who
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah. Oh man, that's rough. And you could have done Beauty and the Beast. That would have been great.
I feel like I would have had the shot, you know? I
Well,
could have
and
been.
see, when I was in high school, we did like obscure plays, but that's just
Mm.
because like our drama teacher was just like super into that, and he like didn't want
Mhm.
to deal with getting all the
Props.
rights and stuff. Like,
Oh.
yeah, so I ended up discovering a lot of really cool plays. Like there was
Mm.
I think the first one I called was, or the first one I watched before I went into high school, was like they put on a show for the junior high kids, and it was called like Psycho Beach Party, I think.
Oh,
And
interesting.
it was really cool. I don't remember very much about it,
Yeah.
but I just remember really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And then in grade 11, I was part of this like dinner theater style play. It was called Happy Anniversary, Angel Loves Gino. And so
Oh,
it was like
that's
set in
cool.
the 1980s. So you had to like all wear 80s clothes. And it was like, some of it was
Nice.
improv, some of it was like scripted. It was actually so much fun.
Right.
And then we got to like bring out the food to people. It was really cool.
Yeah, dinner theater would be really cool. That'd be really
Yeah,
interesting.
it was really fun. And then
Mhm.
in grade 12 we did Zombie Prom, the musical. And
That's
I
awesome.
was the lead. I was Toffee. It was really
Yes.
fun. My best friend was also Candy, which was great. So Toffee,
Cute.
Candy, Coco, Ginger were our names.
That must
It was like it was set in the 1950s. So think like Grease, but with zombies.
be so.
It was like super cheesy, and there was like a nuclear zombie,
Oh.
and it was like really satirical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that must have been like I mean, that was a trend back then, because in grade 12 we also did a zombie play. We did for like our drama class specifically. We did Night of the Living Dead or something, I think it was called.
Mm.
But it was like, it was fun, but it was like, for a Catholic school, I'm like, why are we doing this? This is really, I messed up. Like,
Oh my gosh,
it was weird.
there was a scene in Zombie Prom
Mhm.
where they were talking about so they're trying to get this kid who's a zombie who used to go to the high school. They're like, he has rights because he's, even though he's dead, he's still a person. It was like a
Mhm.
zombie rights movement. And so there's like this one line where she says,
Oh,
if this freak wants his diploma, that's what Catholic schools are for. And everyone just like lost it. It was really funny. It was great.
yikes. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That is amazing.
Zip didn't care. Anyway,
Yeah.
love him. Great. Like probably one of my favorite teachers I've ever had. He was awesome.
That's amazing. So I guess we should jump into our topic, as much as I love talking about theater. But
Yes. Yes.
our topic actually for today is how to, I think this is what it is, how to succeed without spending $1 billion in the music industry.
I thought you
Is
were going
that
to
the
say how to
topic?
succeed in business without really trying.
Without really
Cool.
attempting anything.
Yeah. So how to succeed without a bajillion dollars.
And you know what? I don't have the answers, so bye.
Done.
I'm kidding. I feel like I have some answers, but this is definitely a topic I'm still learning in, for sure.
Yeah, I'd say I'm in no way an expert about this at all. I'm the furthest thing from an expert on this. All I can do is just give my opinion and what's worked for me.
Yeah.
Worked, I use very loosely as a term. I say worked, because it's still in the process of I'm not sure if it's working.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, out of my years of trying to be a musician, like a successful musician, this has probably been the most successful I've been to date, because I want to just talk about like our past a little bit and what we have done, and maybe that can give us some like stuff to go on. So when I first graduated from the whatever program, the McEwen music program, I went like straight out into the gigging world, trying to like get gigs and make money, which was fun because most places don't pay a lot, and they, not really for specific reasons, but a lot of them just can't afford to.
They overestimate how much, or they underestimate how much music actually costs to have.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I think they just value it, not that they value it, but they think that musicians should just accept $50
Well,
for a
it's because you like
4-hour
doing
gig.
it, so that means that it's because you enjoy doing it. I shouldn't have to pay you as much.
Yeah, exactly. So then kind of I went into, I actually did a lot of self-recording when I was a beginner kind of stage artist. I did a lot of it through the Edmonton Public Library, and I would use the studio and just do basically really rough demos. So that was good because I didn't go into it fully spending like a crap ton of money right away. And then I guess for a lot of time I was just writing and trying to collaborate with other people, and I wasn't really recording as of yet. By this point, I hadn't really spent any money into anything. I was still kind of just doing it all on my own, trying to like figure it out. But then as this last year came, I decided to make a Christmas album, and I was really excited because I just wanted to get something out there. And I had actually recorded some tracks of my own that I did want to release. I did 3 that I paid for, I think. 3 songs. And I haven't released any of them yet. They just sit in the bank, and I don't even know if they will get released one day, because we started up this new project. But everything I've recorded up to date, I have never really loved that much, and I kind of wish I had just taken more time. But at a certain point, I kind of felt like I was like, oh, I haven't released anything, and it's been like so long, you know. But I really didn't want to invest like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into a CD or EP that would barely sell. So as to date, I really haven't spent that much money. So I guess you could say I'm successful because I haven't spent a bunch of bazillion dollars in the music industry as of yet. But now that we're in this group together, I definitely say I've budgeted a lot more, and we're still pretty careful about the stuff we do buy and purchase. But I think as to what I was doing before, I was never fully successful with the stuff I was doing by not spending money, if that makes sense. So, I mean, if you're really, really good at hustling on like social media and in-person connections, I don't think you need a lot of money to make great stuff. I think
Yeah,
if no one really knows your name and you're just starting out, you might need to either spend the money, which I wouldn't recommend, or just to get yourself out there more.
well, yeah, it's because I've had a kind of different experience when it comes to that. So I started back in 2012. And like a lot of the stuff when I started out, like I think my very first photo shoot, I didn't even pay for it because it was like my dad who did it for me. Yeah. So I think because like it's hard to say, like, I mean, it's hard for me to take it seriously when someone's like, oh, you're successful. I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Because like successful to you could be different than what successful means to me. And successful for me is not where I'm at right now. Successful is like, you know, playing music full time, writing full time, in the studio, on tour, doing all that stuff. Like successful for me is not doing music part time, which is what I'm trying to do it more than part time, but for me it's more of like I'm doing it more full time than I am now. So for me that's success. Some people see success as being super famous and being the Grammys, and which to be fair, it is a pretty cool goal. But I think, I think you have to define what you want as success first, because if you can't define that, then you're just kind of like going nowhere, or not, you're not going nowhere, but you're just kind of like shouting into the void, and instead of having a clear direction. So I'd say you probably should find your direction first and figure out what you want to do, so you can say like, okay, we're going to pop the champagne because I've reached success. You know what I mean? So that would be my first thing. So I haven't gotten my champagne popping yet. It's getting there. It's close.
Yeah.
Like I will pop the champagne the second I step on that tour bus.
Right.
And go across Canada and the US and Europe. But yeah, I'd say like, cause my experience, I started, basically just like asking for favors from people and just like working with the very little amount of money I had. Cause I was still living at home and I didn't really work too much. Cause I didn't understand how to manage my money. So a lot of the stuff that I spent on was just like equipment that I needed. So like a guitar, a mic, XLR cable, like very minimal stuff.
Yeah.
And then after a while, like, I think it's more about just like spending money wisely, like in the right places, I think. And I spent a lot of money in the wrong places. And yeah, like, and a lot of it too is about knowing who to talk to about certain things. Like, for example, my dad, he's a photographer, so I used him for a lot of my photo shoots. The photos that I have up on my website right now for Marissa Kay, that's all from my good friend Brew, and we kind of had like a little agreement there. So it's not about just like, I don't want to make this seem like I'm just like swindling people and like getting favors. It's like, it's a mutually beneficial thing.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, if you should compensate people for their time and for their effort, and you kind of just case by case basis, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, because I would say that if you're gonna spend money on something like an EP or an album, I'd say take your time paying for that. Find ways to pay for it.
Yeah.
Like save up for a while.
Yes.
Before you actually pay for it. Like if you're gonna go for a grant, save up at least half of that money that you need for the grant. So that way you can tell them, being like, hey, I can cover at least half of this. The other thing is like I spent money on, putting all this whole album together, the musicians and everything. Of course, you have to pay for all that stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
But for me, I just wish that I had taken more time to do it, because I ended up kind of digging myself into this hole where I didn't want to be, where I was still paying off this album like 2 years after I was finished it.
Right.
And it did not feel good doing that, because the person that I was working with was like a really good friend of mine. And I was like, I'm so sorry that it's taking forever for me to pay you back and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, it's just a situation I never want to be in again financially for doing an album.
Stressful.
So yeah, so I think it's just like about being smart with where you're putting your money, how you're saving up for it. And even still, like sometimes making an EP isn't the smartest decision at that time. Maybe it's like releasing a single or releasing a music video. It's like, it's kind of like you have to gauge where your budget is.
Yeah.
To figure out what you can do realistically. Like you can't shoot for the moon if you have like, a skateboard. You gotta like start with the skateboard. You know what I mean?
Right. I actually really like that piece of advice, to start small, because like I kind of wish I had just started by just releasing singles instead of trying to just like release a full Christmas album or whatever. Like I know I haven't released really that much, but I wish I had kind of just taken it a little bit more slowly and just in one at a time kind of thing, like you said. Like, and it would have probably made a difference. But
yeah. And the other thing too, like the things that I'm just thinking about, the things that don't cost money that you and I have talked about many, many times. So things like social media, like making sure that your online presence is really good, like really strong. You're taking the time to talk to other people about it. You're not just, and that's another thing I wish I had done, was just taking the time to get to know other people and
Yeah.
about their stories. So that way, when I tell my story, people actually care instead of me just like hounding my friends and family and be like, go follow me, go follow me, go follow me. Cause they will, but it's like, it's very like, okay, fine. God,
I
shut
have
up. Like,
to.
so, and
Yeah.
I wish I had gone about it in a different way, but you live and you
Yeah.
learn.
Well, I think that's the hard part is like you really want to put your stuff out there, but you have to really be patient and be like, okay, like I really want to put this out, but like, let's be honest, like I don't have a huge fan base right now. Like I don't know a lot of people in the music industry. Um, my friends and family will listen to it, but after that, you kind of have to realize it'll peak at some point and it won't continue to like flourish. So yeah, I think that is really smart that to just be more connected, which is really not that hard. Like it seems like it's a hard task to do, but the more you just put yourself out there, as they say, like into other people's shows and watching their music, and even just something as
Supporting
simple
your community.
as messaging them, yeah, and being like, hey, I really like your newest release. Like you don't necessarily have to meet them, but just showing that you care, and it's not just you're not just releasing something for your gain and you don't care about anyone else's things, because you'll literally never get anywhere if that's the only way you think about music, right?
Yeah, and these are all things that you can do for free. Like, yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
pay for tickets for shows and stuff, but the things you can do for free is just like sending someone a private message being like, "Hey, I really loved your new single. It's awesome." And that's
Mm-hmm.
it. And just leave it at that. You don't have to be like, "Here's my stuff, blah 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 blah." Like it's like, and people can sense that from a mile away. Like if you're not being authentic, they can sense it, you know? And like I can't tell you how many times I've had friends message me that I haven't seen in like years, and they're like, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, great, like how are you?" And then they're like, "Here's this thing I'm working on." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay."
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's all about going about it the right way. But the other thing I wanted to mention, which you made me think of, was the whole reason of why you're doing it. It's like
Yeah.
you need to understand what your why is. What's your story? Like, why are you doing what you do? Because people don't care about what you put out unless they care about you first.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's another thing that I struggled with a lot, because I was like, well, I don't know, just listen to my stuff. And I never really kind of told people my story, which is, I'm still working on that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's what I'm trying to find the words to like explain with this without sounding like cheesy. Um, but like, okay, so for example, I used to work with my dance instructor who she works for a company that helps companies with their branding. So I sat
Mm-hmm.
down with her and I was like, I need to figure out what my brand is. And she just, again, this is another thing that she just did for free. She just like wanted to help me out. So we just like sat down and we just had a conversation, and that's it. And the biggest thing she mentioned was like having people care about what your story is before you actually put together a brand. She's like, they have to figure out who you are, because if they don't know who you are, they're not going to attach to anything.
Yeah.
That's all things you can do for free, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
just like sitting down and like figuring out all that stuff, putting together a plan of like, okay, what's day 1 look like? What does day 30 look like? What does day 50 look like? What does day 100 look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, I don't want to generalize, but I think when they release something, and I know we're kind of talking more about the releasing aspect now, but when they release something, they just drop it into the world willy-nilly. They have no prepaid.
Oh, I wonder who did that. I wonder who did that. I wonder who did that.
Well, yeah, lots of people just don't think about it. But, and I mean, I guess I kind of did that too when I didn't really necessarily release anything. When I released demos, I was like, oh, okay, here it is. Like, here's the final product. And I'm like, no one has heard about this. No one knew you were working on this unless you immediately told them. Like, so why do you expect it to have like all these reviews and raves when no one's even heard about it? Like, I think artists also need to take more time to promote the stuff that they've worked on, like that they've spent so much money on. I think you need to take a good month to really start talking about it. And by the time the month's over, people will be so sick of hearing it that they'll just have to go and listen to it, because they're like, oh, I've heard so much about it, I just have to know now, right?
Yeah, and it's not even about popularity, because I mean,
No.
I can't say that I have a ton of experience with popularity. I was not a popular kid. I'm still trying to figure out how people be popular. But anyway, um, it's not even about that. It's just about kind of showing up on people's radar more and more
Yeah.
and more in different ways. So whether
Yeah.
that's through all the different social media platforms, It's about doing extra stuff. So whatever that interests you, like maybe you also do photography. Like Tall Tale's a great example. She does amazing video and photography work. She's also a DJ. Like she does all these different things.
Yeah.
And it gets you to kind of know, or gets people to know you a little bit more about what you do. But also it just it starts rounding out your story a little bit and showing people different sides of you. So for example, if you like post something that you're like, hey, I made this EP, or I made this single and I'm going to be releasing the music video for it today, and I shot and edited it all myself. Yeah. Like that's interesting. People will totally gravitate towards that. But if you can't do stuff like that, then obviously like don't do it if you can't do it.
Yeah. True. I really agree with that. I'm trying to think of some other like advice I could give that is like, well, I say free, like, but
yeah. Well, the other thing too is like, it's not about just like trying to be the cheapest you possibly can. It's about being smart with where you're spending your money and your time. Yeah. So if you don't have to spend money on something because you can get it done by other means, like why not do it? Yeah. Like I keep going back to the photography example, but you know, I didn't have a ton of money. I didn't have like $8,000 to drop on a really nice photo shoot in a studio and everything. So I just asked my dad. I was like, "This is what I want. Can you do it?" And he's like, "Yeah." And like my first music video, for example, Hush, that video got made in under $2,000. And that's just because I called in so many freaking favors. Like people just wanted to help me, which was really nice. And I don't think I'll ever get that lucky ever again. Yeah, most of the money was spent on the camera equipment, which looking back on the time, I was like, I did not have that money. Why did I spend it? I should have waited to make that video. But anyway,
who filmed that for you? Who filmed that music video?
Corey. See, I just know him as Corey. What the heck is Corey's last name? Oh my God, he's going to be so mad at me. I just know him as Corey. Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I used to dance with him back in the day. And I was just messaging at him asking for advice. I was like, hey, what are some good cameras to use? I want to shoot this music video. Here's the studio I have. Here's the lighting I have. Like, what would you suggest? And he's like, oh, well, I suggest all this. He's like, and I was like, okay. So then I was telling like the people who I was working with, and I was like, hey, this is what we have. This is what he's recommending us do, blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, do you want me to just like come help? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, great. So he like showed up and like basically it was so great. And like, and some of the shots look so cool. And I was like, I can't believe this thing turned out exactly the way I pictured it in my head and like on the storyboards and everything. Yeah. So it's, yeah. And like I said, it's not about trying to swindle people into helping you. It's just kind of using opportunities as they come and being grateful for it, like showing your gratitude for it as well. There was another thing I was going to say. That there was something else related to that, and it's not just so I was going to say it's not even just about like releasing stuff, because success doesn't equal releases. I think the other half of it is working on your skills, working on your, if you accompany yourself, like working tirelessly on that, sitting down, working on songwriting. Like you don't have to release every song you write. Like you might get 20 songs and only like 5. So that would be the other thing is like, don't put every song you have on a record. Because, and again, like that's, and it's not because like, I'm not saying don't put out content. I'm saying put your best foot forward. So, and that's free. You can just sit down and write and practice. And, you know, half the time when I see artists and like, I really love the songs that they're writing, but then they go to sing it and I'm just like, it could be better. Like, and I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying that from a teacher's perspective, I'm like, well, you could be working on your accompaniment more because I see what you're trying to do, but it could be better if you just sat down and practiced a little bit. And that's not even in a mean, malicious way. That's just like an objective viewpoint.
I see the potential.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think when you think about like movies, for example, like big movies, like Avatar's not a good example, but like Marvel movies or like Frozen 1, Frozen 2, let's just say like big movies like that. if they were to constantly shove Frozen stuff, well, not stuff, I should say movies at you every single 3 months, you wouldn't like Frozen very soon. It's the anticipation of things that make people want to come back. So if you're constantly being like, oh, we did a great single, let's throw it out. I'm going to play like 6 shows in the span of 2 weeks. People are going to get sick of just like, it's tiring to also support that artist. And it's not that they don't love you or they don't want to hear your music, but it's like, I've heard you. I don't need to hear you for another 4 months until like, you know, like if I hear it, I'll be excited to come to your show in 4 months, but if you have a show in a week from now and you want me to come to that too, like at
Yeah,
some
but
point it gets tiring, you know?
yeah, and it's also like, oh, you have a show next week, well, I'll just come to that one. Oh, you have a show next week, I'll just come to that one.
Exactly.
And then you end up having less fans at your shows because you're just playing so much.
Yeah. I've
Um,
seen many artists just in the nicest way possible, but just kill their audience that way because they just take on too much too fast and they don't understand the
again,
process of giving it space.
I think that comes back around to your definition of success.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if your definition of success is playing a bunch,
Mm-hmm.
that might not be what you need right now.
Or you need to just contact different types of like gigs. Like if the venue or the gig is expecting you to bring a certain amount of people and you're playing shows every 3 weeks, you probably shouldn't take that gig. You should probably take the gigs that will just strictly pay you for your entertainment, that don't require you to bring anybody. Like that's the type of, but when you see bands or artists that are constantly booking these gigs and they're required to bring people and they don't really bring an effort, it's like you're honestly just wasting your time that you could be
Yeah,
spending so much more usefully, or your time and money, because time is money.
exactly.
But
There's the thumbnail.
but honestly,
um,
like it does take a while to realize that, but
yeah,
I'm
and
speaking the truth.
yeah, and it's not in a malicious way of even, it's just,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's also for like your mental health too. Like you can't be playing shows every week. That's so like, that's exhausting just thinking about
Mm-hmm.
that. Unless you're on tour, then yeah, because you're playing a different venue, different city every day.
Different
But if
audience, yeah.
different audience every day, so like
Mm-hmm.
obviously there's pros and cons to both, and there's different sides to all this. But so I mean, if we're gonna bring it back to the original topic, was like how to be successful without paying a bajillion dollars.
Yes.
I think it's not impossible. I just think you have to be smart about where you're putting your money
Mm-hmm.
and what your idea of what you want your career to be. Like you have a very strong idea of what you want your career to be.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a strong concept, then you're just going to be floating like I was for the first like
Yeah.
5 years of my career. I was like, do I want
Like
to
me
go here?
too.
Do I want to go here? I don't know. Let's throw some money at this. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let's throw money here. Like it's
I think, yeah, that's a really good point. And I think, like you said, use your resources as you have, but be careful with how you're using your resources. And I also think it's important to, like you said, because you said in limbo for like 5 years, and I definitely felt that way too. I think if you can find someone in your life that's able to help you kind of navigate or to act as like a mini manager, you really can, it can make a difference. It can make an impact for sure. But I mean, not everyone has that opportunity and that ability. But just try your best to find like little outlets like that and take the resources that are given to you from like Alberta music or like all these places like gig music that will give you these opportunities most of the time for fairly cheap.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. And you have to find the right resources to help you do that. So for example, if you go to somewhere like Yag Music, like you have to understand what those gigs will do for you. So if you're just
yeah,
starting out, and you just want to start getting on stage, that's a great way to do it. If you want some access to like photographers and videographers, like that's another great place to go. If you want to like hone your skills, like maybe like spend your money on some lessons, like some private lessons, go get Skype lessons, go get guitar lessons, go get like just learn some different instruments to try to accompany yourself so that you're a little bit more self-sufficient, so you don't have to hire somebody else to play for you, unless that's what you want, and the only way you can do your songs is with somebody else, then by all means go for it. Another thing is like you could, play, if you have the time and the resources, go for like a corporate party band, like that plays weddings and stuff. That's kind of how that's how I keep myself afloat when I'm playing in the summer, when I'm not teaching as much. Playing weddings and festivals and stuff, that keeps the money coming in during the summer. Yeah. So what's the other thing I wanted to mention? There was one more thing that I wanted to mention, and I lost my train of thought.
That you love me.
Yes, that's it.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I can think of anything else, but I feel like that we've spilt as much tea as we possibly can, but it's definitely not an easy thing, and you should expect to spend money, but just be careful. And if you can, always try and like talk it through with maybe someone else who's not musically inclined, or maybe another artist. I know a lot of musicians will give advice for free because they know the struggle of how it became to become from point A to B. So like if someone asks, how do you get from point A to B? I would never be like, I need to charge you an hourly rate. Like most of the time, artists
people are willing to help people.
Willing to help you. Yeah. So if you need advice, just reach out to me or Marissa, or like honestly, and like your favorite artists. And I know that they'll most likely help you.
Yeah.
Like
people
Swift, she probably won't answer, but
people are definitely willing to more help than I think you realize. And I think, that's another thing that you can do for free. Just like reach out to people, and you never know who's going to respond. And you never know who's going to have great advice, even if they're not in the music industry. So
absolutely. Totally. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we will be back on Monday.
Bye.
Bye.